Hey, friends, it's Mark from the Where to Gaze Retire podcast. I want to tell you that I built something close to my heart, LGBTQseniors.com. It's a free, welcoming online community for LGBTQ seniors. We've got forums, private messaging, real conversations, and monthly Zoom meetups where members from around the world connect, laugh, and feel a little less alone. No algorithms, no noise, just real people, real talk, and real community, all completely free. If you've ever thought, I wish there were a space like this, well, now there is. And if you enjoy what I bring to the table, I hope you'll find it in your heart to buy me a coffee or even a few to help keep this community going strong. So please visit lgbtqseniors.com today because connection matters and pride doesn't retire. Thank you.
Welcome to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast, where we help you in the LGBTQ plus community find a safe and affordable retirement place. Join Mark Goldstein as he interviews others who live in gay-friendly places around the globe. Learn about the climate, cost of living, healthcare, crime and safety, and more. Now, here's your host, Mark Goldstein.
Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in Madeira, Portugal? Well, stay tuned and find out. Today we have our guests, Paul Corning and Kevin McKay. Paul and Kevin moved to Seattle, Washington to Madeira Island, a semi-autonomous region of Portugal, in March of 2021 during the COVID pandemic. They've been married for 6 years. Paul retired from the Washington State Attorney's General Office in 2016, where he had overseen the state's lemon law for 30 years. Paul has been together with his former husband, Michael, for 43 years until Michael's unexpected death in 2017. Kevin retired from Edmonds College, part of the Washington State Community College and University system, in 2021, where he served as Vice President of Finance and Operations. Kevin has been previously married to his wife of 36 years with 2 adult children. Paul and Kevin met online through Match.com and quickly realized they had found the second chance at happiness in each other. Both wanted to travel more and both had an interest in moving and living abroad. In order to make a dream a reality, Kevin retired early. They sold everything in Seattle and moved to Portugal's subtropical island in the mid-Atlantic. They have lived on Madeira Island for just over 4 years and have no plans to ever leave their new home. Well, sounds great. Guys, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Sure, my pleasure. So let's get right into the questions. Can you give us a little bit more background and share what you learned a little bit about Madeira? And how did you choose Madeira out of everything, every place?
Shall I start with Mexico?
Sure. How about I'll start with Mexico?
All right.
Before COVID, we had planned to move to Mexico and had our visas done and an apartment rented and tickets, and we were packed. And 10 days before our flights, COVID happened, and we went, maybe we better stay where we are until we know what's going to happen here. So
We'd been thinking of Mexico as kind of a 1-year move abroad, kind of easy because we're familiar with the culture and the language. And then we were thinking about southern Spain, some of the hill towns up above, the little white hill towns, the smaller ones up above the Costa del Sol. And so when we didn't go to Mexico, we decided to use that COVID lockdown year to just get everything in order and skip Mexico and go straight to Europe. As we looked into Spain more and more, we found a lot of references that just said, hey, you ought to be considering Portugal too. Now, neither of us had been to Portugal. I'm not even sure either of us had really knew where Madeira, the island of Madeira, was. But we decided after some investigation that Portugal sounded like a little bit easier immigration process, and it sounded like it ticked all of the boxes at least as well as Spain, despite having another language to learn. So that's what we did. We said, okay, let's focus on Portugal. And then we started looking at homes we might either rent or buy. We didn't know what we were planning to do for sure. And we'd see these listings for these, beautiful little homes with the sweeping view down to the sea, and the prices then were quite good. And it's like, oh yeah. And then it's on one of those darned islands. Don't want to get stuck on an island, and we'd keep looking. After that happened about a dozen times, we thought, all right, let's take a look at this island. How bad could it be? And, we're talking about an island that has, year-round, near-perfect weather. It's kind of like spring, summer weather, pretty much all year round. Had an airport that last year saw over 5 million passengers coming through the airport here on Madeira.
Wow.
And direct flights to all of the major European capitals and a lot of other cities besides, with subsidized flight rates for residents of the island.
At least subsidized into major cities in Portugal.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. And everything else we looked at, it suddenly became, gosh, why wouldn't we look at Madeira? I mean, it just sounded perfect. So we actually ended up finding a home before we moved. And so working with the realtor that we trusted and some video home tours, we actually ended up buying a home in Madeira before we immigrated. And we flew to the airport, got off the airport, rented a car, drove to our new home, and yeah.
Wow.
We loved it. It was a better house than we had expected. And Madeira, we actually researched quite thoroughly. There's lots of YouTube videos on Madeira, what the island's like, because it's a little bit of paradise sitting out here off the coast of Morocco.
So that's what I was going to get into. Where is it? And what's the climate like?
Well, it's a subtropical island. It is, as Paul said, it's much closer to the continent of Africa than it is to mainland Portugal. It's an hour and a half flight from Lisbon, about a 2-hour flight from Porto to the island. Subtropical means that, like I said earlier, our weather here fluctuates from, I don't know, at the coldest part of the year, it might get down to around 60. Yeah, 60 would be a cold night.
Yeah, that's when the puffy jackets come out. All the locals are bundled up like they're going skiing.
And then usually it doesn't get much above 25 or 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 80, 85. If it hits 90, we all start complaining. So that's kind of our year-round. Humidity can
right?
jump up to like 70 some percent. Usually it's closer to 60%.
Right.
And we've nice ocean breeze most of the time.
It's the kind of climate that, as they say here, you break a piece off any plant and stick it in the ground, it'll grow.
Yeah.
And that's just about true. There are very few things that aren't available here. I was actually quite surprised coming from Seattle how many plants here were the same kind of plants at home, but they're also sitting next to bird of paradise.
Yeah, those beautiful birds of paradise. So the weather is different from mainland Portugal, I would say.
Yes.
So I'm thinking the Algarve, and then I'm thinking Lisbon, and then I'm thinking Porto to the north. So Algarve to the south. Is it similar to Algarve's weather?
No. Well, I mean, when the weather's nice, they're all similar. But the mainland sees typically periods of much higher heat. I mean, there are
Mhm.
times when it can get well into the 30s and up to even 40 in more recent years in places on the mainland. Whereas the northern part of the country, they often see a lot more colder weather. It can get
Yeah.
down, get down close to zero, down to freezing, and even has snow in places.
Right.
Now we do get snow, but that has to do with the very vertical nature of this island because it starts about 20,000 feet under the ocean, about 6 kilometers down, and then breaks the surface, and then the highest peak goes up 6,000 feet, a little over 6,000 feet. So, in really cold weather, if there's wetness coming, we will get just this little tiny skiff of snow right on the very peak that lasts for a few hours.
It's nice to look at.
It's exciting for some people.
Yeah. All right.
Some of us knew what it was like. Yes, the main difference, I think, is the extremes of temperatures that we just don't have here. It never gets really cold and doesn't have the blistering heat that inland Portugal
Hmm.
can particularly have.
It might also be worth noting when we talk about weather and geography that the beaches on Madeira are by and large, the natural beaches are rock beaches, not
Sand.
not beautiful soft sand beaches. We have a lot of sand beaches, but they truck or ship the sand in from Morocco to create these sand beaches during the summer,
Hmm.
spring, summer, early fall.
I
Yeah.
guess they take the rocks out and put in the sand.
Yeah, they do some
Something like that.
dredging and then they backfill with sand and
Now,
so
the locals generally prefer the rocks
Hmm.
because it's easier to make a nice, comfortable, you know,
Chair.
chair, and
I like my own lounge chair.
you don't have the sand problems.
that's the piece of it. They don't like getting the sand everywhere.
There you go. Yeah, and I'm not a fan of sand either, but okay. All right. So, have you noticed any climate change impacts
I think
with with the island? And do you know if the
so.
government is doing anything to mitigate that?
Yeah, I think what we're starting to see this winter in particular has been really unusual in that, like the mainland, there have been a whole string of like tropical depressions that pass through. And while they've mostly impacted the mainland, we tend to get at least a portion of them coming through. In fact, we've got another one coming tonight, and then, like from 6 p.m. tonight here until 6 a.m., it's supposed to be quite windy and potentially really heavy rains. And we've seen a string of them this winter. Everybody's fed up because, we're not supposed to have to experience normal weather like that. We're supposed to float above that in this
Right.
paradise of pleasant weather. So, and I do think that's part of the change that's going to be, it could be a trend continuing. We also, because we're in the middle of the Atlantic, the mid Atlantic, those mid Atlantic currents, as they respond to climate change, are likely to have some effect. And I don't know if this is part of that or if that's a change yet to come. Not seeing much by sea level rise, and I don't know if
No,
that's just because of
we're
where
out
we
in the
are
middle
and
of
how deep it is, and
So
we
no
don't have
flooding.
shelves. It's very vertical up from below. I don't know if that helps.
No flooding. You have noticed any
no, we
flooding?
haven't had any of the flooding or
Mm-mm.
things like Port Valencia got hit with
Yes.
a hailstorm day before yesterday.
Oh, really? Another bad
I
storm?
thought so. Maybe I was looking at an old video, but yeah, we haven't seen any of that kind of thing. historically, there have been kind of major flooding episodes on the island, but they've really addressed that by containing rivers and changing how the rivers flow to keep the debris separated out and that sort of thing. So,
Well, our flooding hasn't traditionally come from storm surges coming off the water, although there have been occasions when a really strong storm has caused some damage on the coasts. Not very frequently. Our flooding generally comes from the mountains because the island collects a lot of water despite the relatively warm blue sky weather. The peaks are high enough that there's a lot of moisture condensation. And that's actually, we're told, that's the primary source of water on the island. That's fed all across the island through a series of what they call levadas. They're like ground level aqueducts. There are thousands of kilometers of these all over the island, and they're all walking trails too, because the maintenance paths beside them create walking trails. So that condensation in the mountains and any rain that they capture then feeds through these levadas and down. If there's a really heavy rainstorm, in the past there have been some that went on for several days, and then there would be big floods coming down through the rivers and valleys that tended to do a lot of damage. And as Paul noted, they built up the berms for all of those. So hopefully, knock on wood, we won't see anything like that.
Awesome. Okay. Have you noticed the government doing anything to mitigate any climate change issues?
The big effort is around the push for renewable energies to be a higher and higher percentage of total output. Madeira is actually kind of a shining star for the EU. We expect here to be at 50% renewable energy in the next few years.
Wow.
And that's mostly comprised of hydro, solar, wind, and even municipal waste, solid waste burning is what makes up the renewables, and with natural gas and then some diesel making up the rest of it. So Portugal's really pushing, like much of the EU, is really, really pushing the renewables for a variety of reasons, but climate change is one of them.
Great. And where does your home sit on the island? Is it down sea level or is it up a little bit?
We're pretty much sea level where we're located. If you look at a map of Madeira, we're on the southern coast and right about dead center in a town called Ribeira Brava, or the mighty river. It's right where there's a valley that bisects the island north to south or south to north. And we're at the mouth of that, where that river comes down and meets the sea. It's one of the few level towns on the island.
Okay.
Pretty level.
Level
And
is
the
good.
torrential downpours just started.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. What time is it there?
It's 7 p.m.
7.
7.
Yeah.
7:30-ish, 7:24.
11:24
Yeah.
a.m. here. Okay. Gentlemen, let's talk about the cost of living. So I would think on an island, it might be a little bit more expensive. So how would you describe the overall cost of living compared to mainland Portugal or the US? Because you came from, did you say Seattle?
Seattle, which had a pretty high
Seattle,
cost of
which is
living.
pretty high, yeah. So your cost of living must be pretty good as compared to Seattle.
Indeed.
Yeah.
What do you figure?
Well, Portugal,
A third?
yeah, Portugal, and including Madeira, it's about a third of the cost of living compared to the U.S., the average U.S. prices. We're probably a bit more expensive than the mainland, but not a lot. Because a lot of the things that really go into the monthly budget, the big ticket items, especially if you're coming from the US, are things like property taxes and car insurance and medical and housing costs, and a lot of that, a lot of those major big ticket items are quite a bit lower. We are,
Indeed.
I mean, just as an example, we have a fairly large house in a really good central location. Our annual property tax is about 400 euros a year.
Wow. And what's your square footage
We have,
or square meterage?
yeah, it's about 2,700 square feet for the house, and then it has a
Beautiful.
rooftop terrace of 3,400 square feet.
Wow. I'm coming over.
Yeah, do.
Do.
We have two wonderful guest rooms with ensuite, so
Right.
always glad to have friends here.
So leaving Seattle, the home we sold there, our taxes were at 8,000+ a year. I mean, that makes a pretty big dent in.
Sure. And budget.
And here, taxes like sales tax, we always had in Washington. Here, taxes are built in, so you don't see them as a separate cost.
Depending.
It's like a
Generally.
VAT tax.
Yeah,
VAT.
you do see the VAT. You do see the VAT, especially in
Right,
large
but it's
transactions.
usually built into the cost of the item.
Medical insurance.
Ugh.
We pay for private medical insurance. We don't have to. The public system is free and quite good. It's certainly the World Health Organization ranks healthcare here, and it's probably a later question, but healthcare here much higher than in the U.S. But because we come from the U.S., we have this constant paranoia that you can never have enough medical insurance.
Right.
So we pay for a fairly premium private medical insurance plan that is really probably not needed. But for the two of us and at our ages, we're paying about $250 a month for both of us combined.
That's unheard of.
It's
And yeah,
ridiculous.
and we're not spring chickens, so it's a higher level.
Now, so everybody talks about pre-existing conditions with private healthcare. Like most don't allow it, some allow it, but charge you more. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, it depends on who you get your insurance through. Some of the plans, some of the companies do have pre-existing condition clauses or won't cover certain things if you've had before. The plan we're with now has no pre-existing condition clauses. There is for a few things, a few kinds of things, like I needed cataract surgery. There was a 1 year waiting period before they would cover that in particular. But and some of them have, some of them, if you're 70 or older, some plans won't cover you. The one we're in does. So they're available.
Yeah. Now, the public system has no pre-existing limits. Once you get your visa and you become what's called a temporary resident, you have full access. It puts you into the full medical system, the public clinics, the national pharmacy system. So my medications are the same as I had in Seattle, and it's easily
What, a tenth?
20% of what I was paying in the States through a health system. Here, I can walk in and pretty much all my prescriptions for a month cost less than one prescription back in Seattle.
And how long is the wait once you get a visa? So, like in Spain, I believe you have to wait a year to get onto the public system, but you have to purchase private. But I think Portugal is a little better about that. Can you tell us?
As soon as you have your residency visa, you can go to the local SADE, the health center, and be signed up. and avail yourself of it. So there's no waiting period.
For the visa process, they require a year's private insurance. But once you get to Portugal, you immediately get into the system anyway. So we had pretty major duplication of what we could do
The first year, yeah.
the first year. And a lot of people don't even carry insurance because care here, even in the private sector, in the private hospitals and whatever, is so much less that they just pay out of pocket.
A friend of ours today, in fact, was telling us she needs to go in for an MRI, and she's going to pay for that out of pocket because the cost of an MRI here is less than her copay in California for an MRI.
It's that crazy.
So that's just
She's in
out of pocket.
a viral and
No, she's here on the island.
okay.
But anyway, that's not important. Food here is so much less expensive. Oh my gosh. I mean, now if we go to any place else, it's like, what? You're charging me more than 90 cents for my coffee? A sandwich more than €3? What's going on?
Well, it's no.
Bottle of wine here, we're
Cheaper than water.
Yeah, it just about is. I mean, if you go, say, to the grocery store to get a bottle of wine, you can shop, middle toward high shelf for easily €5.
6, 8.
6, 8 is a nice
12 is
top.
you
drawer.
wait for it to go on sale for $3.99.
Yeah.
That's so funny. And yesterday we went to, what was it? Wine and More, something like that. It's this big wine superstore here. And we bought a gift that had 6 small bottles of wine. And then we bought another bottle of really good, what was it? I'm trying to think. But anyway, it came in, the bill was like $150.
Right.
Yeah, you could buy wine for the town for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was tequila. It was good tequila.
I feel extravagant if I have to pay $1 or €1.99 for cooking wine, for bottles that I'm just going to dump in spaghetti sauce. Meat can be expensive.
Not by comparison, though.
Well, beef tenderloin fillet in a premium center cut from a hand cut by the butcher might be €22 a kilo. So that's about 2 pounds. So sometimes I'm a little shocked when I go, oh my God, it was 2 kilos for this giant piece of tenderloin, and I had to pay €22 for it.
Probably be 50 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Portugal is mostly seafood also, right? There's a big
seafood plays a major part of the diet. And, let's face it, as seafood, and they do seafood quite well, but their favorite seafood is bacalhau, or salted cod. They say there are 365 different recipes for salted cod here. But when it's done well, when it's done properly, it can be fine.
Yeah.
And actually kind of delicious. Coming from the Northwest, I've never experienced salted, dried fish.
Yeah.
So coming to find this has really been interesting because it in restaurant menus can be incredibly good. And there's a huge variety of fish available.
Yes.
So, and on the mainland, they've got probably access to local shrimp and clams and stuff. Madeira doesn't have enough slope below the
Shelf
for the sea level. So there isn't that kind of thing other than limpets, which are a local favorite.
Mm-hmm. How about utilities and your daily living expenses, like internet, your phone bill, stuff like
Yeah,
that?
so unlimited cellular service for two phones, we're paying 46 a month. Now, mind you, these are euros. Okay, so you do have
Right.
to make a slight
So
adjustment
it'll
there.
be like 50 something
Yeah,
dollars.
yeah.
Two phones.
For
And that includes data.
Yeah, that's unlimited. That's what I mean by unlimited data. For I don't know, cable television and internet is 40 no 30 37 a month.
Wow.
What else?
Yeah, down from 350 a month in Seattle.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're very generous with our electricity use. We've chosen not to do a lot of scrimping and saving there. Because of our inner city location, we tend to use AC or at least dehumidification more than open windows just because of noise. And and we have a dryer, an actual clothes dryer other than just a string
Hanging it.
that we hang our colorful underwear over. So
The neighbors are grateful.
yeah. So, for electricity, we have, because of the terrace upstairs, we've got extensive gardens that we put in up there, and those are on timered water. So our water consumption is a bit higher than normal. And all of that together, we're spending about 2,500 a month for everything. That's our complete budget: groceries, dining out.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and that's higher than it needs to be because we could certainly economize in several areas.
Now I know in Portugal on the mainland, homes are built, they're kind of like, I guess, stone, so they become kind of musty and moldy in the summer and cold and damp in the winter. Do you experience that on Madeira as well?
Yeah, you see that same thing here. They do a lot with cinder block and concrete and plaster. They don't insulate.
Normally.
Traditionally, they have not insulated. So you get these essentially concrete houses
Right.
with no insulation. And if you get into cold weather, that cold just
Freezing.
stays.
It just goes through you.
Because we're in a very vertical area, if houses are built up against a hillside, everywhere where there's earth concrete with that earth contact with that uninsulated concrete, you get moisture, and that moisture, that humidity that it builds up needs to be addressed as well. The good news is more modern construction and more modern remodeling, like our house here. This house was remodeled from a commercial space just before we bought it, and it is all insulated all the way around. So
That's great.
it's very, very
Makes a
comfortable,
difference.
very efficient, and we don't need to do much with it. And that's a trend. All the new construction I've seen uses pretty heavy, kind of a styrofoamish like insulation.
Yeah. Good to know. Good to know.
But
So, okay.
if you're looking on the mainland, if you're looking to rent an apartment on the mainland, particularly at the northern half, that's something you really have to be aware of.
Yes.
It is cold. Those apartments
In Porto.
it just kind of gets into your bones. And most Portuguese homes, up until recently, do not have any
Air
kind of
conditioning.
built-in heating or air conditioning. So it's little plug-in heaters, and those cost a fortune
Yeah.
to try to combat some of that cold. And so that's definitely something to think about if you're moving into one of the areas that gets colder and damper in the winter.
Sure. Great to know. All right. Cost of living is pretty
Good.
good. As you said, it's like a third of Seattle. Let's go a little bit back to healthcare. We started talking about it. Now I know you would rate the healthcare system. You said it was better than the United States. Are English speaking doctors available?
Yes.
Very
Yes.
common.
Yeah. English is required for students in the medical universities. So they learn a lot of their learning is done in English. Portugal has some of the oldest and considered some of the best medical universities in the country.
Or in
So
Europe.
we've had no problem finding English speaking doctors, healthcare. Occasionally, the front staff speak less English.
Right, people at the desk making
Yeah, but
appointments and
that's occasionally. That's not normal. Usually, there's one or two people there that are pretty fluent with English.
Right. Almost always there's someone that will step forward to handle
the English speaking.
our questions.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important because, God forbid you have an emergency and you are rushed to the
Absolutely.
hospital and you don't know the language, you
That
feel
would be very difficult.
panicked, you
Yeah.
know?
We've
Is it-
had, we've had friends that have tripped and fallen and, bones sticking out, fractured, broken legs. We've had another friend who, in a moment of distraction, tripped, fell, knocked out her front teeth, and had to have dental surgery. I just had a few weeks ago emergency surgery for a detached retina. Everybody has had exceptional care. The equipment here is very modern, high end. Getting in, especially for anything that's an emergency or needs a rapid turnaround, does not seem to be a problem. If you're just on the public system or just using the public system, it can take a while
Mhm.
for non urgent needs or to see a specialist for something that's not super urgent. But, if even on the public system, if somebody finds a lump and there's any concerns about it,
They'll get you.
those people go
Handled
right to the front of the
immediately.
line, and they're in usually same day.
Now, how about your private? I'm kind of curious. How long is a wait to see a doctor or a specialist?
Sometimes same day. Sometimes
That's
same
like,
day for a
that's
doctor.
unheard of here.
Yeah, usually within a week or within the week. If I call on a Monday, I'm usually going to get in within the week, if not same day. And a specialist might take a couple of weeks through the private system.
Do they make house calls?
Yes.
That's
If you
another
live in the
thing.
big city of Funchal and its environments, there are several of the clinics that have 24/7 house calls at no extra cost.
See,
For 18 euros.
Yeah, for an 18 euro doctor visit.
most people don't even know what that means, house calls,
I
because
know, I know.
when I grew up, I don't know if when you grew up, we still had house calls for a limited period of time. I think they did it in the 60s. Maybe they stopped in the 70s.
I was going to say, I'm not that old. I never remember a doctor coming
Well,
to
you
the
lived in a
house.
bigger city. Out in the county, it was a little bit more common to have a
House
country GP
like
that
it.
came out.
Well, yeah, and I lived in Brooklyn, New York at the time, and I remember as a kid, I might have been only 4 or 5 years old, but I still remember my doctor
Wow.
making house calls if I got the flu and I could,
Mhm.
it felt really awful. So, yeah, that's all right. So you're in quick to see a doctor, and you explained the
Yep.
differences before between the public and the private. So that's excellent. And there's no wait, which is different than Spain, because I believe in Spain you have to wait a year. I'm not quite positive on that, but yeah, you can get onto the public health care as soon as you become a resident here in
Yep.
Portugal. All right. And is there any different medical facilities or anything different for the LGBTQ community? No, they just treat
No,
everybody
it's
the same.
just it's just the same. There are no restrictions. It's not any more difficult. There's not any kickback. Portugal was one of the first EU nations to start putting LGBTQ protections into the Constitution such that no judge, no president can later come along and remove them, including gay marriage. And so from a public services standpoint, LGBTQ is not handled any differently. When we first got to the island, because we had some boxes that we were shipping from the US, and we needed to get a letter from our local town hall that said, yes, indeed, we are actually here on the ground. They've physically seen that we are here.
Mm-hmm.
And we went into the office to do that. And, the woman looked at us and just automatically assumed, she verified, but she automatically assumed, okay, and you're married, correct? I mean, it wasn't there were no raised eyebrows. There was
Right.
no, we
Just a
didn't have
question.
to declare it. We didn't have to clarify. It was just, we're together. She assumed we were married, and they just wanted to know if we were married under a community property system or I don't know what the other one is.
And that was a small village.
Small country village, yes.
Yes, this was not a big city. I don't know. There had to have been other gay people in the community.
Oh, there were.
I'm sure there were. Okay. So healthcare, that checks the box. Let's talk about your actual neighborhood and transportation and walkability. Is it easy to get around Madeira without a car? Or do you need a car?
Well, it depends on where you live. We have several friends who choose not to have a car. They live in Funchal. Funchal is the big city. So if there's a roughly 250,000 residents in Madeira, about 125,000 of those residents live in Funchal. That's the big city. And if you're in Funchal, there's all sorts of transit. If you're over 65, it's free and it's good. It runs frequently. It works well. And in some of the closer outlying areas, those connections work well too. As you get farther away from Funchal, then there may not be as many options each day, and there tends to be one or two routes for every area. So you can get to all of the major areas by bus, pretty much, but it may take
A long
a
time.
chunk of the day to do.
Yeah. Even the farthest villages up in the hills have bus stops.
Yeah.
Again, it may not be
Often.
much more than once a day,
Right.
but you can get there and get back. Of course, Bolt and Uber and that kind of services and taxis are everywhere here.
Yeah.
And quite affordable. The locals frequently use taxis.
Yeah, locals often use taxis and Uber or Bolt. Some of our friends without cars, if they're going like from Funchal out to our place, they might take a Bolt for, 10 euros.
How far are you from Funchal?
18 kilometers, which is about 15 minutes driving
Oh,
on the highway.
Yeah.
that's not bad.
And there's a lot of rental cars. So some of our friends that don't own a car will occasionally rent a car for the weekend, or if they have guests in from out of town, they'll rent a car for a week and take them around the island. Personally, I recommend getting a car, even
Especially
if it's
where
just
you live, right?
a little something, just because if you really want to explore the island and get everywhere, you're going to need a car.
Gotcha. Is everything contained? So, like from where you live, well, I guess you said that you need a car. Could you walk to like any cafes, markets, restaurants,
Oh, absolutely. Where
to
we
the
live,
pharmacy?
Ribeira Brava is, I think, about the fifth largest
Yeah, about 15,000
people
people.
live here, but it's level. and it's a beachfront town. And we have within walking distance, we've got two major grocery stores. We've got butchers,
Three.
bakers, candlestick makers, clothing shops, coffee shops. I mean, a
Wow.
whole bunch of restaurants to choose from high end to
Nice.
very, very casual. That's one of the things we like about where we are. It's an incredibly walkable little area, and many, if not most, of the small towns and villages are that way. They have a center that's got most of the basic things you need.
They're going to have a little grocery store, probably even a meat market,
Hmm.
and someplace that's sort of a tavern cafe that serves food of, local variety. Pizza is everywhere here. Not always necessarily great
Pizza.
What they call pizza.
Pizza when we talk about food.
Yeah.
So, okay. That's what we like. We like walkable
Yep.
towns, and Europe is pretty set up that way.
Yes, it is. And this is a very European island. Remember, it was when the Portuguese first discovered the island and first started to populate it in the 1400s. There were no mammals, there were no indigenous peoples, there was nothing here but a lot of trees. In fact, Madeira means
And
wood
birds.
in Portuguese, and they decided the trees were in the way, so they burnt the island for 7 years. They started a 7-year fire to kind of clear
7
out.
months.
No, 7 years. It burned for 7 years
Mm.
to try to clear some of that out of the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And besides the buses, they don't have any trains in your
No.
neck of the woods.
We do have several sky trams, or what do you call them?
Telefericos,
Telefericos,
which are cable cars.
Cable cars.
There's
Kind of cool.
8 or 9 of them around the island, but usually it's where there's a major cliff that has to be
Hmm.
navigated.
Okay. All right. Let's talk a little bit about the LGBTQ community, or if there is one, and acceptance. So, do you have any LGBTQ friends
Lots.
in your
Much
area?
bigger social world here than either of us ever had in Seattle.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Easy to meet people generally.
Are these expats or locals?
Most of them are expats, some of them are locals. Locals are a little bit more, the local LGBTQ community has it a little bit more difficult because of the strong family culture. If you're local, everywhere you go, there's probably an aunt or a cousin or, somebody that's got their eyes on you. So, and because it's so difficult for the family to have
Sometimes, yeah.
somebody who's LGBTQ in their family, it's kind of a shame thing. It's kind of people, yeah. It's kind of deeply entrenched in particularly the older culture, or the older folks. So they tend to be a little bit more closeted and discreet. So it's a little bit harder to get to know some of them, but we certainly have some gay and lesbian friends here on the island that are locals, and more from the expat community. But I will say, and this is general advice to anybody that's thinking of relocating, it's really, really important to reach out and make community. Don't wait to stumble across it. I'm not a Facebook fan myself, but Facebook groups, finding an LGBTQ Facebook group in the area can be a really good way. If you've got people that are thinking of coming, like here, people thinking of coming to the island, we've often talked to them through those, set up video calls with them, answered their questions, ended up having many of them come and stay with us for a week or 2 just to explore the island. And some of them have moved here and become great friends. And through those those who you meet, they may know two or three other couples or individuals, and you just start to build community. So it's not
We haven't,
unusual for us to have a dinner party with 21 people.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. And that's really anywhere, especially here also in the
Mhm.
US. Community is a lot. And yeah, I think didn't we meet on a Facebook group?
I think
yes,
so. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Paul.
Uh-huh.
yes,
Paul answered my quest. Yeah, so I appreciate that.
yeah.
So
Actually, Funchal opened the first um, gay LGBTQ center in Portugal about a year and a half ago.
hmm,
So it's got a little office, not much of anything, but at least it's there.
yeah, it's
Um,
something.
Yeah.
and like anywhere with a big tourist area, lots of tourists around, it's hard not to stumble across
Yeah. And I'm all
friends of,
about making community and building community.
yeah,
So I just, in fact, started my own website called lgbtqseniors.com.
Okay.
And it's Facebook alike with no ads.
Yeah.
And I set up, you can private message somebody. There's a bunch of different social groups with discussion forums in them
Oh, good.
based
nice.
on different locations. I have Europe, US, Mexico, Costa Rica, lots of places. And I just add content and people have been answering back. So it's only been
Sure.
open for like 3 weeks. And I think it's close to 200 members so far. So
Wow. Is that posted on the YouTube channel or?
it's not. It's just lgbtqseniors.com. I do advertise it in my Facebook groups because I
Okay.
also have Where Do Gays Retire. I'm the admin of Where Do Gays Retire Facebook
Right.
group, as well as Gay Men 60 and Better.
Both
So,
of which are fantastic resources for creating community
yeah,
and learning about, well, like these podcasts,
yeah,
learning about other places where you might want to land
yeah. So
when you
I do
escape.
that for the community. There's no charge. The website is totally free.
Cool.
And I am going to be doing at least monthly Zoom meetings so people in the community from all over the world can get together and maybe make a friend. The,
Yeah,
That's great.
you
Yeah.
know, so
fantastic. I love to see that because I agree. I mean, the people that I see struggle, because it's no secret that sometimes when people move abroad, a certain percentage of them end up moving back
back
because
because they're lonely,
they never find that feeling of home. And
right?
I think having a home is, whatever that home looks like for you, having a home is important.
Exactly,
Getting to know your neighborhood is important. I mean, getting to that point where people know you and say hi to you every day, and
exactly.
bon dia, boa tarde, how you doing, tudo bem, how you doing, is important. And then, doing the work to
Teams.
build community
Yeah.
so that
Participating.
you've got
Yes.
chosen family wrapped around you,
You hit it
and
on the head.
so you can be so comfortable almost anywhere.
You hit it on the head. Our next Zoom is about creating your chosen family.
Yay.
So
Yes. Yes.
so yeah. So check it
Cool.
out. All right. Well, are there any gay restaurants or neighborhoods or anything in the LGBT? Everything is just integrated, correct?
Everything is integrated. There's not really a gay neighborhood anywhere.
No.
There aren't any what I would consider to be gay bars. This is not a nightlife kind of gay destination.
Hmm.
So if that's what people are looking for in their retirement, this is not the location for that. This is this is more everyday life where it's quite comfortable and easy to be gay and be publicly gay and build community, but not nightlife,
Life.
gay bars, and things like that.
Yeah.
I'll also say that for those that might be looking for a dating scene, that's a little bit problematic too. Most of the people that we see here in the LGBTQ community are already coupled, and the locals, while many of them are very beautiful, it's very complicated because of the dynamics I referenced earlier. It tends to make for unstable relationships. I am told that if folks are into the grinder hookup scene, with all the cruise ships coming through, that certainly provides opportunities for that kind of thing.
Who's telling you that? We'll talk about
yeah, we'll talk. We'll see. But yeah, for those that are interested in that kind of thing, that exists. But this isn't Lisbon. This isn't the Canary Islands.
Right. That's a big difference.
That's not what you're getting here.
I kind of picturing it as like a little small Hawaiian island.
It is often referred to as the Hawaii of Europe or the Pearl of the Atlantic, and with a topography that's very similar to Kauai in many respects.
Beautiful.
Very vertical, very verdant. Yeah.
But I'll tell you, there are lots and lots of gay tourists here.
Oh, yeah.
We see them everywhere in restaurants and just walking down on the waterfront. I'd be surprised if I went a day without seeing.
We're everywhere.
Guys, yeah.
But I'll tell you a funny story about how you make community. We have a kind of a home improvement store here. It's Leroy Merlin. It's I think French chain.
Yes.
And we pulled into a parking spot in Leroy Merlin, and another car pulled into the spot immediately facing us at the same time. And we looked up, and they looked up, and it was like looking in a mirror.
Because there were four of us with
I mean, we all looked
bald heads and
the
beard.
same thing.
Roughly the same age, and there was just something, and
Funny.
Paul and I kind of nudged each other and said, "Think they're family?"
Yeah.
And you see the same thing happening there, and then
They said the same thing.
they get out of the car, and one of them says something to the other, and the other looks back, and they're kind of chuckling, and they go in, and we go in, and we end up passing them 2 or 3 times in this great big home improvement warehouse. And eventually, Paul says, we really got to stop and say hi.
We can't not say hello.
So we did, and yes, they were a gay couple, and so points for gaydar.
Were they expats? Were they expats?
Yes, sort of.
Well,
one is Brazilian, and the other is New Zealand.
Okay.
But they've spent time in Brazil and here in Madeira. But this is where they live now, and of course they became friends.
There you go. And now they're coming to your dinner parties.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
When we
Okay.
have
Do they have any pride events? I'm kind of curious.
Any private?
Pride events, like pride
Yeah,
parades.
there's an annual Pride parade.
Oh,
It's
wow.
not huge, but it's there. It's present. And the carnival brings out that side
Yes.
of the
I would
community
think.
as well. So the carnival parade serves as a little bit of a pseudo pride parade.
Okay. All right. Very good. Let's talk a little bit about arts, culture, and entertainment. What kind of arts, culture, and entertainment opportunities are available?
lots of concerts,
Local.
local generally, but I've been to symphony and opera concerts where they'd flown in singers. There's an incredibly talented classical orchestra here. For such a tiny little place, it's stunningly
Very talented.
quality. And of course, there's everything from guitar concerts, fado, mandolin concerts, accordion concerts.
Wow.
Here's a winner.
Portuguese love their accordions. It's the only place you can go, I'm sure, where you go to a rock show and there's accordions on stage.
Yeah, you don't hear many accordions here in the U.S. Only on the
No.
Lawrence Welk
Yeah.
reruns.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Mr. Will kind of burnt us out.
Yeah.
So lots of music,
Traditional
of all varieties, particularly during the summer. Most cities or villages really have big festivals, often with, well, they always have live music and a stage, and they go long into the night.
Yeah, usually for the festivals or the festas, and every village has them. And it's rare that there's a weekend that there isn't at least one village having an onion festival or a
Chestnut
banana
shrimp
festival,
festival.
or a saints festival or something. And you'll get local kind of traditional music. They usually bring in some well-known Portuguese popular singers for the evening, and then it switches to electronica / disco well
Rock.
into 2 or 3 in the morning
Hmm.
during the festas. But that's all pretty local stuff. If you're looking to catch, you know, Madonna, Sigaros,
You're not going to find that.
that's on the mainland. The good
Right.
news is it's an hour and a half flight and a hotel.
There you go.
And the flight's subsidized by the government, so it's a maximum cost of 72
I think it's
euros,
70 something, yeah.
70
Each way.
something round trip.
Round trip. It's great.
And
Can't
ticket
beat that.
prices here are so much less than they are in the United States that,
Oh, yeah,
the whole package will cost you probably no more than.
Yeah.
that's great.
We frequently have gotten flights for like 35 euros round trip to Lisbon.
Yeah. And most major performers do come through Lisbon,
Yeah,
but you can
Oh,
just
yeah.
as easily catch them in Paris, or you can hop to the UK
that's
to
true.
London to see them, and it's really easy to do.
It's easy to get to. Yeah, that's great. All right. One of my favorite subjects is coming up, dining and restaurants. So tell us about the dining scene, the restaurant scene in Madeira. Are there any Michelin-starred restaurants there? Tell
Michelin
us.
Guide lists 12 restaurants
12.
on the island.
Wow.
And so there are, we have lots of small local cafes that all have identical menus of the handful of local comfort food dishes that are popular with the locals, right? They're what everybody expects. Then we have pretty much everything else that you would expect from a resort tourist destination. So ethnic foods, high-end restaurant, Michelin star restaurants,
They're here.
high-end afternoon tea, cream teas for the British.
And do you have your menu del dia, menu of the day,
Yes,
with the
frequently.
3 entrees and a drink
Yep. Or 2 entrees,
for like really
two,
cheap?
2 items in a dish. Yeah, they're called prata de dia, plate of the day. They're usually quite inexpensive. 6 euros might buy you pork chops and roast potatoes
That's
and
crazy.
Vegetables.
and some
And wine.
vegetables. Yeah.
One of a really nice restaurant. The 3 courses is, well, last time I checked was 12 euros
It's great.
with tablecloths and the full deal.
Don't forget
Really
the
nice
tablecloths.
restaurant.
How about what's their little pastry?
Pastel de nata,
There you go.
or the pastiche de nata, if you're talking about more than one. Yes,
And
they
they're
are.
always talking about more than one.
They are.
Yeah,
They
they're
are
really
a
small.
lethal temptation. It's an egg-based custard in a puff pastry that's made in a particular way. So you've got this crispy, flaky shell with this custard filling. If I have one in the morning, I refer to it as an omelet because I feel like it's got enough egg in it to justify that name. Makes me feel a little better about the calories.
About having dessert for breakfast.
Now, you pronounce that really well. I forgot to ask, do you guys know the language, Portuguese?
Falo português, falo pouco português.
Evan does much better.
We are studying again Portuguese. It's not an easy language.
No, it's difficult.
It's interesting because it's like English in that it's not a language that equally pronounces all syllables. It emphasizes certain syllables. So what's interesting is exactly what we struggle with listening here, others struggle with when listening to English because we don't stress all syllables evenly. And that happens here, which results in a lot of parts of words just kind of getting eaten
Dropped
up.
off.
Yeah, and it does make it difficult to learn the language, but we do. We are speaking the language. We're getting
Yes.
better. I can carry on some basic conversations and not get terribly twisted up now.
That's
My
great.
favorite phrase, and I use it frequently, is obrigado pela sua paciência com meu português. Thank you for your patience with my Portuguese. Because that tells them, look,
And
I'm
then they
trying.
love that.
I appreciate your effort. And they just, they usually smile and laugh. And then, they
And
help.
every little old lady wants to kiss it.
And, and then they want to help correct.
Right.
Because the
Yes.
biggest challenge, there's two big challenges to learning Portuguese here on Madeira. First, everybody wants to switch to English. So getting to actually
Yes.
use it every day is a real challenge because, again,
They'll say, let me speak English.
yeah. They want to practice their English. They want to
Yeah.
show they know it. The other is that Madeira's form of Portuguese has developed for many, many years separate from the mainland. And mainland Portugal has trouble understanding Madeiran Portuguese.
Oh, it's
It's
sort of a dialect.
almost like learning English in Appalachia.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you're not learning high Portuguese, and it's that much harder to hear what's being said. But it can be done, and the good news is it's hardly required.
Got it. Now, I've heard from other people that the local Portuguese cuisine is not tasty to, let's say, expats or people from the US at least. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The local cuisine is at least here on Madeira for a long time. It's classic peasant food, potatoes.
Sustenance or
It's what you could grow in a
sustenance
lot of
farming,
ways.
Mm-hmm.
self-sufficient farming, what you grew. You get 3 crops of potatoes a year here. So potatoes figure prominently in everything.
Some tropical vegetables, lots of sweet potatoes and that sort of thing. The food is not heavily spiced.
So it's bland, in other words.
It's pretty bland usually. They make wonderful soups. The seafood's great. It's almost always grilled over wood. So you get very real food, even in the local little restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
It's frequently mamas in the back cooking.
Right.
And so it's interesting cuisine. Some of it is, for me anyway, and certainly for Kevin, can be a little challenging because it's, you get lamb soup with chunks of bone and
Hmm. It's getting
gristle.
used
It's
to.
very local
You
and
have to
it
get used to
tastes
that.
great, but you have to work it.
Yeah.
It stems from a culture of growing your own,
Hmm.
using every part of everything.
Yeah.
It's like so many of our comfort foods stem from what were once survival and or even poverty foods.
Right.
And so that's, I think, similar to here, because Madeira has not always been a very wealthy island. And you're right, they don't season much, and they really don't like spicy here. Spicy is just not something you're going to find generally on a menu. That being said, there are a lot of local dishes that I really like, and they do fall under that comfort food heading. They have something called picado, which is chopped up pieces of chicken or beef or mixed together,
Pork.
chicken and beef, occasionally pork, with a gravy and some French fries. I mean, is it healthy? No, but it tastes good.
Right.
Feta is very popular, and that's skewers of beef and sometimes chicken on laurel branches, cooked over a wood fire, wood ember fires, sometimes rubbed with garlic butter. That's really common. Salads are, for most people coming from elsewhere, a big disappointment here because a salad amounts to a piece of lettuce
Mm.
with some slices of cucumber, maybe some sliced carrot, and maybe some sliced onions sitting on top, a few slices of tomato. And then there's always a jug of oil and vinegar at the table. And that's it. It's not a mixed salad. It doesn't
Right.
have a bunch of goodies in it.
Just
And there's no other salad dressings.
oh,
So I understand why people think, oh, it's kind of
boring.
Basic.
bland. But
Yeah.
as Paul said, the seafoods are good. Lots of grilled fish. Octopus is very popular here. And while I like the taste of it, I'm not a fan of eating octopus, but it's very tender the way they do it here and can be quite lovely. So
There's such a huge variation. Some of the local restaurants are very, very nice and have very high quality, interesting dishes as well. The basic little mom and pop taverna, more or less, out in the villages, is not going to have high cuisine, but you never know. There's a great pizza place out in the middle of a village that you have to know it's there, and that's great. There's a French restaurant out in the middle of nowhere that
has a fixed menu every night. It's
has
what the chef is cooking, is what you get.
Nice.
it's incredible.
But local cuisine is less diverse and pretty consistent.
Yes.
Oh, bolo de caco is something that's also kind of a Madeiran specialty. And for those in the U.S., think of a large English muffin.
Oh.
It's very similar to an English muffin, cut in half, soaked in garlic butter and a little bit of parsley, nicely crisped up, and
Very crispy.
served as bread, with the meal. Or
Portuguese
the
bread is
macrego, which
delicious.
is a sandwich that's made with that garlic bread and
Mm.
things in between. Fried eggs are very popular too. Fried eggs on sandwiches, a fried egg on top of a steak, fried egg in your tomato soup, or cooked in your tomato soup. Yeah,
Not fried, but yeah.
cooked in the soup.
Frequently, eggs are a big addition. You can get eggs on pizza regularly.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Some pizza.
Which,
How
Speaking of
about
pizza,
Portuguese? Oh, I'm sorry. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say the local standard for pizza is not what anybody from Italy or anybody that's used to a good wood-fired pizza would consider. They it's not what you would expect of a pizza. That being said, there are a handful of pizza restaurants here that do what I'm used to as a good wood-fired pizza crust.
Yeah. How about sourdough bread? Or Portuguese bread in particular is pretty good here in the States. Is it that?
It's
It
Lovely.
must
I
be
like to
great.
make my own bread, but when we can so easily and so inexpensively buy all sorts of good bread every day, it's really hard to get motivated to bake it
Yeah,
myself.
yeah,
Even
I don't blame you.
the big grocery stores have incredible bakeries for
For bread.
bread, and you can get it intact, or they've got slicing machines that you
Yeah,
drop it in.
Good stuff.
getting
And
me
the
hungry.
local bakeries where they're doing it on their own, there's lots of rolls as well as
Mhm.
different flavored breads.
Mm,
Incredible.
sounds yummy to me. Okay. Safety and crime, or crime and safety. Do you
Yes,
guys feel safe living there?
this has got to be one of the safest places in the world, both statistically and by
That's what we hear.
reputation. Portugal is often considered one of the safest countries, certainly in EU, in Europe, and Madeira is the safest place in Portugal. I mean, it's extremely rare. Most crime, when it happens, tends to be rural, and it tends to be more
Personal.
often domestic, or yeah, domestic crime, which is unfortunate. We don't generally have guns here,
Right.
so that aspect of crime, you can, but it's extremely expensive to get a license for a gun and maintain it. And so you just don't see very many guns. You don't hear of gun violence here.
No, it's extremely rare.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so you can walk out, you can walk the dogs at 2 in the morning and feel fine, right?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Anywhere.
Now, is the
In the
culture
jungle.
for eating also late at night?
It's later than most of the US, but it's not like Spain or Argentina. A dinner here, most people seem to, if you think like restaurants,
8 to 10.
most people show up, yeah, closer to 8 p.m. seems to be a really peak time. Maybe 9, but
So if you were walking home from the restaurant at 11 or close to midnight, if that, that late, do you feel perfectly safe?
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, we've never felt in any way threatened.
That's such a big thing, you know,
Yeah, it
Yes.
is.
of where to
We take
live.
it for granted now.
Yeah, because that's really important. Because who wants to move to a place that has, crime wherever you go? And you hear
Right.
it shooting here, shooting there, and,
We
unfortunately.
still, because of our age and maybe earlier in life experiences, I'm not super comfortable walking hand in hand down the street as a couple, and I certainly would be doing a constant 360
Yeah,
monitoring. But we see younger gay and lesbian couples that are walking hand in hand on a fairly regular basis, and it doesn't, nobody's stopping to
doesn't
stare
phase.
or pulling their children under their skirts or any of those shocked, horrible reactions.
Yeah, that's very, very comforting. Yeah, so that's very important. That's a big decision and when you decide where to
Absolutely.
to move. It's,
Especially as we age,
yes.
because let's face it, should we live long enough, we'll get to an age when we're a little less stable on our feet, move a
Hmm.
little bit slower, reactions are slower. That makes us more vulnerable in
Yeah,
situations out and about.
yeah,
And so being someplace where people are, and this is such an intensely family oriented environment. There are families, there are elders, there are youth out at all times. And again, because of the close family network, nobody's going to get out of hand without their aunt seeing it and reporting it to their mother. And I don't care how old you are, your Portuguese mother's going to take you in hand, and it's not going to be any fun. So it's a close knit community. So even if you're out late at night, you're around other people too that are not worried
and
and would look out for each other.
I would assume you don't have a big homeless population because of that family culture.
No, and because the healthcare system here
Takes care
treats
of everybody. Drug
the
addiction.
addictions and the mental illness that usually lead to homelessness. That being said, there are a handful of folks who don't want to take advantage,
Right.
aren't ready or in a position to take advantage of those systems. So there is some homelessness. You will see some people sitting quietly asking, with a hat out for coins, but nothing like you see in any of the big cities.
Yeah. Especially
At least
here.
not
In
so
the
far.
States. Yeah, that's actually quite rare.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, every topic that we go over, it sounds like a great place to live. Let's talk a
It
little
is.
bit.
We can't imagine having picked kind of by accident any better place. The environment's lovely. The people are so lovely
Yeah, they are.
and friendly and helpful. The biggest negative for most us expats is they don't treat their dogs very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
Well,
it reminds me of when I was a kid growing up and the way pets were treated on farms.
oh yeah.
It was a much more
My
utilitarian,
my
practical
husband
kind of
grew up on a farm.
perspective.
Yeah. And he
Yeah,
said
yes,
he said, "Oh my God, growing up on a farm with a dog, it was totally different than it is now."
yeah,
So,
yeah. That was my memory too, and I think that's where a lot of it stems from. Again, a very traditionally agrarian society.
yeah.
right.
Yeah. So
Um,
integrating into the community was pretty easy.
It has been for us up to a point. For example, out our front door is a taxi stand. And so we see all of the taxi drivers that park there and we talk to them, pretty much every day. And as we go about our business here, we have locals that we're constantly saying, hi to, or stopping to chat for a few minutes, or somebody will ask how we're doing. And that's just the local people working in here in our community. And that's been really easy. Again, Paul referenced how easygoing the Portuguese are. That being said, getting invited to somebody's home,
House.
say for dinner, a Portuguese family, that's different. And it's, I think, different for two reasons. One, because they assume that you're not going to speak Portuguese, which is likely to be true,
Right.
and that creates discomfort. And two, because families are family together, and it's not about bringing guests and strangers into that environment. So it takes a lot longer to get to where you're as something that people might be interested in knowing about. Often people are afraid to drive in Madeira because the roads are steep, sometimes narrow, very windy. It's not hard. We found that on most of the smaller roads, there's a great deal of courtesy that we don't typically see. If
in the
somebody's waiting to turn in
in the
someplace or
states.
come out of a driveway or turn left across traffic, people don't speed up to make sure that they don't get in front of them. They will stop and let people go.
That's
And
different.
that happens all
All
the
the time.
time. Just general courtesy. That doesn't mean that there aren't probably expats
Yeah.
that feel differently, but for the most part, you see that on the freeways here. And the freeways here are gorgeous. They're less than 25 years old. They're mostly 4-lane divided freeways. There are over 140 tunnels that the freeways pass through on the island. They get, like the mainland, there's a lot of aggressive driving. Cars are doing anywhere from 40 kilometers an hour to 130 kilometers an hour. And that's a complicated mix. And cars that want to pass pull right up on your back end, and not for any fun, just riding to be
Stay there.
riding, to say, and it's their way of really trying to push you out of the way so that they can get past you. Even if you got a string of traffic on your right and you're passing at a measurable speed. So the Via Rapida feels, the freeway feels very aggressive, whereas the other roads don't. But Madeirans also have kind of a flexible, casual approach to the rules of the road. Lane dividers are kind of suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not uncommon to see even police we've seen driving, straddling the center line, especially around corners. And parking, people park everywhere. On a lot of these roads, there are two narrow lanes side by side, but there's no driveways for some of these more traditional houses. So the cars just simply park on the road.
Oh,
So that means one lane is blocked.
yeah.
And it may be on both sides, but they don't do
You
it.
may be weaving in
Yeah,
and
you may be
out.
weaving in and out. And there's an etiquette to it, who has the right of way and who doesn't, and it's generally followed. So it's daunting at first, easier the more you do it.
Yeah.
And I do recommend sticking with a small car.
So here's another question. Did you have to start over and get a new driver's license, or was it reciprocal from the States?
Reciprocal. Now I think you have as much as a year before, once you start driving here, before you're required to exchange your license. When we moved,
For
I think it had to be within 3 months of starting to drive. And you simply take your US license in and they exchange it for a Portuguese license.
So that's a big thing. It's different than any other place in the EU or in Spain at
When you have to
least.
retest.
Yeah, they have to retest because they figure each state is different and nothing is really reciprocal because it's
Yeah.
state versus country.
It would be a good idea if they at least required everyone to figure out how to use a roundabout.
But
Consistently.
that's a good
Because,
That's
suggestion.
a point of contention.
yes.
So quickly,
Yeah.
let's review visas and residency. I just need to know for our audience, when you apply for a visa, and there's the different types of visa, retirement visa, they have a digital nomad, they just got
Mhm.
rid of the golden visa. How do you go about applying for that? Is that applied for in the US?
Yes, you're required to do that in your country of origin. So for US citizens, you've got to do that in the US. You have to use the consulate that serves your state, and the consulates have a defined territory. So you don't have an option as to which consulate you work with.
Okay.
In Seattle, we had to use San Francisco. The San Francisco consulate is known to be a little bit pickier and a lot slower than some of the other consulates. You work with a company called VFS. So the consulate, like many countries, outsources to a third-party company called VFS. You meet with them rather than the consulate. They ensure that all of your paperwork is in order and correct, and then they submit it to the consulate on your behalf. You need the typical things, you've got to have proof of income. Speaking from the D7 visa, which is the retirement visa that we went through,
Mhm.
you had to have proof of passive income. And it has to be at least minimum
wage.
Portuguese wage, which is such a low threshold, I'm afraid to say, that I think
It might be 1,200
I don't think it's 1,200 a month, even for couples. I think it's less than that.
So that's a lot lower than other countries in the EU.
Yes, it's very low.
And that number will change over time.
And that means Social
Right.
Security income, pension income. Does it include like 401k savings and
Not savings. They don't look at your total worth. They're really looking at
what's coming in?
what's a monthly income that you're going to live off of.
Yeah.
Yeah, investment income is not considered passive income for the purposes of the D7.
Right.
So, but
But the threshold's really low for that. Amongst the other documentation is an FBI criminal record report that has to be gotten, marriage certificates, often apostled, which is something,
Like
even working in the legal field, I'd never heard of before, which simply means it has to be notarized,
notarized.
but then sent to either your state or the Department of Commerce for their recognition that it's a legitimate notary.
Was it very bureaucratic going through that process?
No, it just took a couple of starts and stops. We chose to work and pay a company to help us through that process. It's certainly something that you can do on your own, but we opted to do that just because we felt like the money was worth it.
Yeah,
Well, and we were right after and during COVID. So things were only beginning to start again, and it, there weren't a lot of resources. There's lots of information in expat groups
yes.
that are constantly updating the kinds of documents and that sort of thing.
I will say that one of the problems that many people face with many of the expat groups is that every question has a multiplicity of different answers, all citing a variety of different sources or personal experiences. So it is actually the source of a lot of confusion when it comes to these kinds of things. So I recommend going directly to the VFS site
absolutely.
for Portugal and getting the information directly from them and or directly from the Portuguese consulate.
Right.
It takes about 6 weeks right now, I think, just based on a couple of folks that we've got going through, that we know that are going through the process now. I think it's running about 6 to 8 weeks once everything's submitted for you to get your visa stamp or visa
in your passport.
Right. Excellent. All right, gentlemen. So what advice would you give someone considering Madeira as a potential retirement destination?
Wow. I would say check your priorities of how you want to live in a new world, a new environment. What's going to be really important? A lot of it has to do with some people are very loath to give up their lifestyle, and their expectation is they're going to be able to achieve that just the same wherever they are. That may or may not be easy to do. The other thing is realize that wherever, at least in Europe, where you're not going to a third world country. They have everything.
Right.
Everything is here. On Madeira, everything's here except a really great Mexican restaurant. But we keep trying to encourage somebody to come here that can do that. But
I would add, even though we didn't do it and didn't have the option, if you can afford to do it, come check the island out first. Hook up with somebody, whether it's another expat or a local. Or maybe I shouldn't say hook up. Okay. Identify somebody that can help show you the variety of the island so that you're looking at, because we've got 6 different microclimate zones. The bulk of the island sits at around 3,000 feet. A lot of the towns are at sea level. You can pick and choose your weather. You can pick and choose the kind of town, big, small, rural, busy, quiet. Come and look at the island and get a feel for what it's like would be a smart thing to do. And of course, we're always glad to answer questions for people and show people around the island. I think that's important.
How about one special thing that you wish you knew before you moved? Is there anything?
Not for us, and we may not be the best people to ask for that, because we knew wherever we moved that we were going to be going to someplace that was foreign to us, and we were simply going to be adapting to whatever was there,
Their
and
culture.
we're pretty
Flexible.
flexible about that kind of thing. I think Paul's point. Well, one thing that I would pass on, and this doesn't fit for everyone, but I would heavily question how much stuff you bring with you. And particularly furniture, unless you know the house you're moving into is going to accommodate your furniture from the United States, which tends to be bigger than
Mhm.
best fit here. And bedding is all different sizes. So your sheets and things aren't going to fit the local beds. You can make do, but they're not going to fit.
Clothes are inexpensive and
Right.
quality.
In other words,
And
leave your stuff at home.
The less you can
yes,
travel with, the better off not all, most people will be. Now, some people have, really expensive, beautiful legacy furniture. They don't want to lose it. I get it. I
Hmm.
get it.
Yep.
And your personal special
and antique
belongings,
furniture.
sure,
Right.
but really, it's
Get rid of this stuff.
yeah. And having to furnish a home when you get here, having projects to do like that
That's good, especially in
does help.
retirement.
It helps with retirement, but it also helps with anxiety around moving.
Yep.
Gives you
And
something
it's a
to do.
hell of a lot of fun because this is such a different world. There's so much more available in Europe than you will ever find in the States.
Huge antique markets in Paris
Oh,
you can get to
God.
really quickly. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, if you've got the right
You can
if you've got the
order,
right gay card, in your wallet, you
Right.
have a lot of fun with the decorating.
and you can order, custom made furniture in northern Portugal. There's a whole town that you stop in and they're whatever you want, they can make for you. We have friends that had custom sofas made and that kind of stuff. In Portugal, they went to Romania for chandeliers and Italy for clothes.
Awesome.
Sure.
So if you can sum up life in Madeira, we're going to wrap this up. If you can sum up life in Madeira in a sentence or two, what would it be?
Well, it's a cliche, but it really is a slice of paradise. I mean, the weather, the pace of life, the quality of life, and really, people keep asking me, is there anything from the U.S. that you miss? Mexican food, and we make our own.
There
So,
you go.
that's really it.
I was thinking about what I miss. One of the things I miss is a bathtub. They're almost non
No
existent
bathtubs?
unless you go to a hotel. They don't build them in,
Do they have
they don't put them
bidets?
in remodeled or new houses.
Not the new remodel stuff. Yeah, showers are more popular,
Yeah, it's all
Oh,
showers. It's fine, but
no
but don't bring
bathtubs.
yours from home.
don't bring yours from home.
No.
And the other thing I really miss is really good aluminum foil when I'm cooking.
Oh, they don't have Reynolds wrap. Aluminum foil.
There you go.
And how about, do they have bidets?
Yes, bidets are very
Are
popular
very
here.
common?
Traditional ones and/or the little sprayers off the side.
Do you have one in your house?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Just
Yes.
curious. I never
Yeah.
asked that question.
I think they're great.
I'll have to try one. But anyway, on that note, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. It's been great. I love talking to you guys. I feel like we're friends.
We are.
And
Indeed.
hopefully someday we'll get out to Madeira and pay you a visit and knock on your door.
We would love that. Room and board taken care of. So
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much.
it's been a real honor, pleasure to
Real
be able
pleasure.
to participate in this. And like we've said before, we're always glad to talk with folks about, if they have questions about moving here, because it's hard to imagine who this place isn't good for, but it's not going to be for everybody. So, getting questions answered can be really important.
But lots of people step off the plane and go, oh my God, this is perfection. And they're looking for a house before they go home.
That is true. That is true.
We've had people say, absolutely, on their first trip, we're just looking. And 2 days later, they bought a house.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. All right. We'll see what happens when we get off the plane.
It's a deal.
All right.
Mark, thank you so much.
Oh,
Thank
you're very
you.
welcome. Let's keep in touch, okay?
I
Absolutely.
agree. Let's do.
All
And
right.
feel free to share our contact info with others that might be interested in
If you
reaching
get
out.
questions or whatever.
Perfect. Thank you, gentlemen, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
Great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and consider making a donation by clicking the coffee cup on any page at www.wheredogaysretire.com. Each cup of coffee that you buy costs $5 and goes towards helping us continue the podcast. Thank you for your continued support.